As usual, before we commence this sermon, let us all take a moment to reflect on the fact that it is because of the Supreme Buddha that we have the gift of Dhamma today. It is because of him that we have a path to liberation, the path to salvation for ourselves. Bearing this in mind, let us all take a moment to pay homage to the Supremely Enlightened Lord Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Also, as usual, let us take a moment to observe the 5 precepts. And once again reminding ourselves that we are finding ourselves on another situation, another occasion in which we are having to observe the precepts. It has become an artificial observance that we have to keep doing, and this is because the virtue entailed within the precepts is not yet part of the very fabric of our conscience. And the day it becomes so, we will no longer have to observe the precepts because that virtue will be part of who we are. Until that day comes, reminding ourselves that we are having to do this, and in fact being quite shameful about the fact that we are having to observe these precepts once again, in the hope and determination and resolve that may this have to be the last time I have to observe these precepts. In order to observe the precepts, I ask you all to chant the Namaskara 3 times and all together. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saranagamanaṃ sampunnaṃ, Pānātipātā veramani, Sikkhapaдаṃ samadhiyāmi. Adinādāna veramani, Sikkhapadaṃ samadhiyāmi. Kāmesu micchāchārā veramani, Sikkhapadaṃ samadhiyāmi. Musāvādā veramani, Sikkhapadaṃ samadhiyāmi. Surameraya majjapama daṭṭhāna veramani, Sikkhapadaṃ samadhiyāmi. Tisaranena saddhing pancha silang dhammang sadhukang surakkitang katva appamadena sampadeta. Okay, now I'll be seated. And before we commence, let us all, as usual, take a moment to invite all the devas, brahmas, spirits, demons and the dead, our ancestors who we have come across in this infinitely long journey in samsara, those who have been mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, nephews, grandparents and so on and so forth, perhaps teachers or other acquaintances who have come into our lives, who came into our lives and helped us, supported us, assisted us in any way, shape or form that they could, in any capacity that they could. It is now an opportunity for us to repay the debts that we owe them, because we have the gift that excels all gifts, and that is the gift of Dhamma. So, for all those beings that we have come past in samsara, for any being that we owe a debt of gratitude, it is the perfect, the prime opportunity for us to repay those debts. So with that hope and determination in mind, let us invite all those beings to join us. If any of them have today been born in the woeful plains, may they be able to witness this meritorious deed and rejoice in the merits that we will be acquiring. And may through the power of those merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful plains and be born in the blissful plains. And for all those beings who are in the blissful plains, may they be able to listen to this sermon, understand and comprehend the Dhamma that is entailed and contained within these sermons, and may they be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So, as I now make this invitation, I request you all to extend that invitation in your hearts and in your minds out to all those beings. May they join us, may they witness this meritorious deed, and may they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gachantu Devata Sadhamang Munirajasansa Sunantu Sagga Mokkadang Dhamma savana kalo ayang bhadanta Dhamma savana kalo ayang bhadanta Dhamma savana kalo ayang bhadanta. And also before we commence, let us all take a moment to remind ourselves and acknowledging the true fact, the reality that is, in this infinitely long journey in samsara, we have not always come across noble beings. Our associations have virtually always been with immoral, ignoble people, those people who defiled our minds with raga, dvesha, moha, desire, aversion and delusion. And having been blinded with avidya and tanha, ignorance and attachment, innumerable will be the times where we have offended, abused and slandered the noble ones, the Aryas, the Samma Sambuddhas, the Pacheka Buddhas, the Arahata Buddhas, Anagami, Sakrudagami, Sotapannas, be they on the path or having attained the fruits. For any words, thoughts or actions of abuse, slander and desecration that we might have directed towards them, either knowingly or unknowingly, such abuse may today, the karmas of such actions may today block and hinder our progress in the Dhamma on our path to Nibbana. Therefore, before we begin this sermon, let us all be humble about who we were, acknowledge that this is the reality, truly and genuinely accept that many times in samsara we might have offended the noble ones, and having done so, let us all take a moment to seek forgiveness from the Aryas as well as any offense that we might have directed towards the Buddha's ministry, the Sambuddha Shasana. And finally, Let us all make a firm resolve that through the course of this sermon, if there are any gaps in your understanding, in your knowledge, in your comprehension, that have kept you so far from attaining the noble attainments of Sotapanna, Sakurdagami, Anagami and Arahat, may through the course of these sermons, you be able to fulfill those gaps. May whatever points of Dhamma that you require to fulfill those gaps be expounded through the course of this sermon. And with that firm resolve in mind, make a firm determination that may through the course of this sermon I be able to become a Sotapanna and close the gates to the four hells once and for all. With that firm resolve, I invite you all to prepare yourselves to listen to this sermon. Okay. We have tried to do what we can to make your listening experience at least a little bit better than it usually is. Because particularly given it's an afternoon, and we have had some very hot afternoons lately, the environmental factors are not conducive to keep you from going into deep states of meditation. The moment you sit down, you try to go into very deep states of jhana, states that I have never managed to achieve yet in my life. Remarkable. I'm only admiring you, come on. So what we've tried to do is, because you're coming here to listen to the Dhamma, not necessarily go into meditation, we'll arrange a separate day for that. So we want to try and make your stay here as comfortable as we can. And so whatever you see around here is really not something that I brought with me. None of this is mine. None of this is something that I earned, because I don't make a living anymore. These are things that generous people among yourselves have donated to the Sambuddha Shasana. Not to me, not to this monastery, but to the Sambuddha Shasana. This all belongs to the Sambuddha Shasana, the Buddha's ministry. So whatever you have donated, today you are making use of it, and hopefully the benefits of that will help you to listen to the Dhamma better, and hopefully try and not go into meditation through the course of the sermon. Because, I understand that we all have very busy lives. Right? Through the course of a week, I remember the life that I used to lead, how there was so much that you had to get through in the course of 1 week. How many people you had to satisfy. All connections that you have in your life, someone expects something from you, don't they? Everyone who's connected to you, do they not expect something from you? So there are lots of boxes that you have to tick just to keep going, just so you can stay out of trouble. So when you have to lead your life ticking all these boxes for other people, it can't be easy. Because ticking one box for person A means you're unticking the box for person B. So now it's a balancing act. You're all jugglers. That's what happens. It's like a circus. You have to juggle all these things. So doing that is no easy task. It's no easy feat. And therefore, you seek some kind of recluse in the Dhamma. And you come along and listen to sermons, but as you listen to the sermons, all these fires of raga, dvesha, moha, they start to disappear. And then what might happen then is, as you're relaxing, then sleep starts to seep in. But it's such a shame, it's such a pity, because this is the time where you have to stay awake. This is the only key that's going to unlock this riddle of samsara. It's a riddle. It really is. Any of you watched Maze Runner? It's a movie called The Maze Runner. I haven't had an opportunity to watch it, but those who have tell me that it's kind of like a riddle. So there's a maze in which people are stuck and they're unable to get out of it because they don't know how they got in there and they don't know how to get out of it. Until one guy, he takes off one day and decides enough is enough. Someone has to make an effort to get out of here. And then they start making an effort, this guy. Eventually he finds a way out and he encourages other people in the maze to come with him, but that's not what they're interested. They just want to make a comfortable stay wherever they are, not necessarily wanting to get out. Because people don't know any different. So, according to the story, I'm informed that very few people actually make their way out, but a lot of them just stay within the maze with no interest of getting out, and then ultimately they end facing tremendous torture and pain and ultimately regretting their choice. So this is what we all have to face. There's a choice that we all have to make. There's a choice we have to make every day. Remember, none of us, well, you should really ask that question of yourself. Why did you come into this world? So this is a rhetoric question. Ask yourselves, why did you come into this world? What is your purpose of being here? Who invited you to be here? Now you're here. Are you here just because? Are you living just because you were born? Or is there a greater purpose to life? It's not good enough to say, I'm here because my parents decided I had to come into this world. You know, animals are like that. They have no choice. Once they've been brought into this world, they just go by instinct. Whatever instinct dictates. So, wake up, eat, sleep, reproduce, and then start of another day and go through the motions, the same cycle every day. And that's this instinct that's driving them. But we humans, we just can't follow instinct like that. There has to be a greater purpose. Because we can all think. We can make choices, intelligent choices. We can act. Because we can choose the consequences that we are prepared to accept. We can choose. But for that, we need to understand what the consequences might be of our actions. And for that, we have the power of intelligent thought. Isn't this how you decide what you're going to do every day? What might the consequences be of my actions? Isn't that how you choose what you decide to do? Between anything. How do you choose to decide where you go on holiday? How do you choose to decide which side of bed you get out of? How do you choose to decide what you're going to have for breakfast, lunch or dinner? You have to have some deciding factor. It can't just be instinct. There's something that helps you determine that. And if you're wise, you're going to go by what the consequences are of your choices. If you're wise, you're going to choose by the consequences that you're going to have to face. And if you're not knowledgeable about what these consequences are, then you're just going to take a blank shot. You're just going to go about feeling in the darkness. Excuse me. And that's quite dangerous. If you're just going to go about walking in the darkness, just trying to feel about where you are, and that's how you're going to make your choices, that's pretty dangerous. This is why you need a philosophy for life. When you have a philosophy for life, now you know with every breath you take, with every moment that passes by, how do you make the right choice? See, isn't that what we use philosophy or religion for? To make the right choices? Isn't that what we use science for? Logical reasoning and things like that? to help us make the right choices? Because ultimately, what is life except for a series of choices? And the consequences of those choices. Karma and vipaka. Isn't that what life is? The choices you make and the consequences of those choices. Right? That is what life is. So it's better to be knowledgeable about what the consequences are of the choices you make so you can make the right choices. Now if you remember from last week, we talked about ego. Do you remember? And we talked about how it's easy to talk back when someone points out something that's wrong with us, or someone says something that they think is something that we need to work on. It's quite easy to talk back, to say two things in the face of one, always retaliate. But how? That is kind of digging your own grave. And you were given some homework. Do you remember what the homework was? Do you remember the homework, Bill? Oh, you weren't here last week. Okay. What was the homework? This is where? Instances that you come across in life where you are given an opportunity to fulfill your paramita, your perfections, but you choose to turn them round and kick them on the back and go, no Devadatta, not this time, come back later. Because we talked about how we wouldn't have a Buddha today if there was no Devadatta. How so? Again, it's choices and the consequences of those choices. In the presence of the Devadatta, the Buddha had choices to make, or the Bodhisattva had choices to make. Am I going to be patient, or am I going to fight back? He had a choice to make. When you're an Arahant, you don't have a choice to make. Then there really is no choice. Someone comes and shouts at you. It's not a choice for an Arahant, whether I shout back, or I just be patient. But for us, everything in life is a choice. Because there are two sides to how our brain works, or how our mind works more than our brains. We can act with raga, dvesha, moha and make the wrong choices. Or we can be vita ragi, vita dosi, vita mohi. Act with wisdom and make the right choices. Every day, every moment that passes by in life, you're faced with these opportunities to make a choice. Whatever choice you make, you have to be prepared to accept the consequences. So Devadattas walk into our life every day, every moment. And now you can choose how you want to act. If you choose wisely, then you are using that opportunity to fulfill your perfections. Dasaparamita. Because that's what's going to take you to become an Arahant one day. This is why I asked you, are you serious about being an Arahant? Are you serious about Nibbana? If you're serious about Nibbana, then you may have to change the way you act at home, in your workplace, how you conduct yourself. If you're a parent, a mother or a father, and you see your child has not done their homework, now that can be upsetting for a parent. Or they've not attended to the chores at home, not washed their dishes, not made their bed. That can be upsetting to a parent. Now you have a choice to make. Of course, as a parent, you have to be responsible. You have to show your child right from wrong. But you have a choice about whether you do that with anger or you do that simply with compassion. Because if you do it with anger, then that's okay, for as long as you're prepared to accept the consequences. That's okay. If you do it with hate, again, that's okay, for as long as you're prepared to accept the consequences. So really, it's okay to steal. it's okay to kill. Is it not? It's okay to lie. It's okay to backstab. It's okay to shout at people, hit them, do whatever you like. For as long as you're prepared to accept the consequences. But the thing is, people like to do bad things, but they just don't like the consequences. They like to do bad things. They like to do evil and mean things, but they don't like to accept the consequences. But you can't have one and not the other. It doesn't work like that. If you do the deed, then you get the consequences for free. You can't choose not to take it home with you. It just comes with the package. You just can't choose not to. It just comes with the package. So provided you are prepared to accept the consequences, then you can do whatever you like. So this is why last week's homework was, spot opportunities throughout your week where Devadattas walk into your life. These are opportunities for you to fulfill your perfections. For example, you might go home after a busy day at work and you expect the dishes to be done. You expect a meal to be prepared for you either by your husband or your wife. You walk home and you get home, there's no dinner. Where's dinner? No dinner, sorry, I was too busy. Now, Devadattas just walked into your life. It's not your wife, not your husband. It's just that situation. The circumstance is such that Devadatta has just walked into your life. Now you have a choice. These choices, there's always a default answer in our mind, isn't there? There's a default. Retaliate. Fight back. The reason that is the default is because this is what we have practiced over this infinite long journey in samsara. We never tried to fix the true problem that is attachment, tanha. We always try to change the anicca world to a nicca world. We always try to change the world to our liking. This is our default reaction. Change the world to my liking. Never fix the problem, the real problem of attachment. So if you find that dinner is not prepared, then now you have a choice. You can either accept that is what the circumstance is and not retaliate. Be understanding of the situation, and this is the result of causes. Accept that, and perhaps find a way to get yourself some dinner, or you can shout at the person that's just informed you that no, dinner has not been made. You can pick a fight. You can start a quarrel, and that's okay. Seriously, that's okay. It's okay to shout at your wife. It is, seriously. It's even okay to hit her. Really it is. For as long as you are prepared to accept the consequences. Because you can't pick one and not the other. That comes as a package. If you are not prepared to accept the consequences, then you had better be careful about which choice you make. But as you begin to understand the Dhamma, the reason that you don't retaliate is really not because you are afraid of the consequences. This is what you do before you understand the Dhamma. Now you have to restrain yourself. It's, to give an example, take an arahant, as I said earlier. Someone comes and shouts at an arahant. He doesn't have to restrain himself. There is nothing that he or she has to do to not shout back. It just doesn't, there's no reaction that comes from that person. Because the default answer is no longer retaliate. That default has now changed. And the reason that they don't retaliate or don't shout back is not because, well, if I shout back, then I have to suffer the consequences, and I'm not happy with that. No, that's not the reason. Now they understand that there is nothing that is worth fighting for. There's nothing that's worth shouting about. There's nothing that's worth picking a fight about. All this while, the reason that we fought, the reason that we had world wars, the reason that we got into quarrels and fights and all these things was because we always sought something that was worthwhile from the outside world. We wanted to bring what was out there into our world, and when it didn't work to our plan, that's when we decided to fight back. That's when we decided to pick a fight. The world's not to my liking, now let's do something about it. Let's change the world to my liking. Because we always thought there's something out there that's really worthwhile. That the world is pleasurable. For someone who understands that, no, the world is not pleasurable because pleasure is not something to be found in the world out there. It's simply the outcome of a process. And that process is attachment, vexation, relief from vexation. That's what pleasure is. Now you realize that this is not something you're going to get from the outside world. It's not something you can import from the outside world. Then you stop trying to change the outside world to your liking. You stop trying to reconfigure the outside world. Whatever the configuration is, that's the best way it is. I'm happy to accept whatever the outside configuration is. I don't want to try and change the configuration. To come to that requires an understanding of the Dhamma. And that comes over time. So, the best place to see how far you have understood the Dhamma is where? Where is it? Is wherever you find yourself the most of the time. So it could be at home. It could be at the workplace. It could be at school. Really doesn't matter. It's wherever you are right now. That's the best place to check where you are on the path to Dhamma. Wherever you are right now. Because right now, you have choices to make. You have choices to make. For example, someone might not like the way I speak. Now you have a choice to make. You can either become quite angry about it. You can complain. Or you might not like the environment right now. It might be too hot, might be too cold for somebody. Now you can react about it. That's not to say, no, don't do anything about it. Because it's not what your body does that really matters. It's how your mind works at that time that matters. So if you're feeling hot at home, I'm not saying don't turn on the fan, don't turn on the AC if you've got one. That's not what I'm saying. It's okay to find relief from vexation, physical vexation. Mental vexation, if you're going to try and find a relief, you're doing a karma, for which there's going to be a consequence. Always, every single time. Whether it's a punya karma or a papa karma, a good deed or a bad deed, these are all karmas. The reason for these karmas are you're trying to relieve yourself from vexation. That's why an arahant is a punya papa pahinassa. One who does not do good or bad, merit or demerit. Neither. He doesn't do either of these. Because there is no vexation from which he requires relief. So the only treatment to vexation is really to rid yourself of attachment and nothing else. Attachment is something that happens to the outside world when you think that pleasure exists in the outside world. Take a really simple example. You see a girl, you decide, I want to get married to her. Or I want her to become my girlfriend. The reason you decide to make her your girlfriend, if I ask you why that is, you're going to give me some reasons. There could be several. You might say she's pretty. You might say, I like her voice, it's quite sweet. You might say, I like the way she dresses. I like the way she walks. I like the way she talks. She's very kind. She's very gentle. These are the reasons. But you're not attaching yourself to good look. You're not attaching yourself to the way she dresses. You're not attaching yourself to the way she talks or the way she walks. You're attaching yourself to her. But if I ask why, then you're going to say it's because of those reasons. So there are two things that we need to consider. I'm talking about why people attach. Two things you need to consider. There's the why and there's the what. You buy flowers, you take them home and you put them on your dining table. in a beautiful flower vase. You bought flowers because they were beautiful. But you didn't buy beautiful, did you? You bought flowers. You bought flowers. Why? Because they're beautiful. If they weren't beautiful, you wouldn't have bought them. If they were ugly, you wouldn't have bought them. If they didn't smell sweet, you wouldn't have bought them. You eat cake because it's delicious, because it's yummy. You don't eat yummy. You don't eat delicious. You eat cake. But you eat cake, why? Because it's delicious. Because it's yummy. So the what and the why, we really need to distinguish. You attach yourself to the what because of the why. To remove the why, you're not going to attach yourself to whatever. There's always a reason why you attach, and that's because you find pleasure in the outside world objects, whether that's a sight, a sound, a smell, taste, touch, whatever. This is the reason you attach yourself to the outside world, and the outside world again is sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. But the why is because of pleasure, because you find them pleasurable. And the example I gave last week, if you all remember, you have a company, you hire people to work at your company, at your workplace, at your shop, business, whatever, right? They come along for an interview after you've posted a job advert, you interview them, and you decide they're no good. These guys are not any good for my business. So you turn them back, you reject them. But they come back the following day with a recommendation letter from somebody. You read the letter, and on the basis of the letter, you hire them. Because in the letter they say, please don't reject them, please accept them into your business. They're good people, they're nice people, they're really good guys. Well, you made your own mind the last time they came in. Because you decided, no, really, they're of no use to us. They're not skilled, they're not talented, they have no education. There's no point of hiring them. But now they've come back with the letter, you read the letter, in the letter it says, no, actually they're good. So what you're doing is, you're going against your better judgment. You're accepting what has been said by somebody else, an asatpurusha. And you're going to hire the 5 people that the previous day you rejected. They haven't changed one bit. Over one night, nothing's going to happen. It's the same people that they're coming back. And you hire them. The same goes for how we conduct ourselves and attach ourselves to outside world objects. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. You would never attach yourself to them if you didn't find them beautiful, yummy, sweet smelling, tasty, right? These are the words that you use to describe pleasure, are they not? Beautiful is a word that is used to describe pleasure. Tasty is a word that is used to describe pleasure. Sweet smelling is a word that is used to describe pleasure. These are all adjectives that describe pleasure in some way or shape or form. For as long as you're able to tell that something is beautiful, you're going to attach yourself to whatever it is that is beautiful. So it's not beauty that you bring into your world. It's the beast that you bring into your world. That's the problem. You bring the beast because of the beauty. So what happens when you bring beasts into your world? Now you're going to have to suffer. Because you brought a beast. But because of beauty. So Beauty and the Beast. This is your life story. You fell for the beauty. So you allowed the beast to come into your home. Remember these things, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, Rupa, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Sparsha, whichever way you look at them, arise and pass away. That is their nature. That's their very nature. You can't stop that from happening. Because they're all conditional. For as long as there are conditions that keep them in that state, they're going to stay in that state. And when the conditions the causes cease to exist, then you will no longer have the effect. You can't stop that. You can't change that. That is an intrinsic nature, quality of all Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, as well as Rupa, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Sparsha. You can't stop that. You can't change that. You just have to accept that. But if they weren't beautiful, if they weren't yummy, if you didn't find them pleasurable, you would never allow them in. What instrument can you use to measure beauty? What instrument can you use to measure yummy? Is there an instrument for that? No. Or is there? There is. You've got it. Have you not? Aren't these flowers beautiful? Well, you have an answer. So surely you have an instrument that you can use to measure. Now you can see flowers of various colors. There are pink flowers, white flowers, purple flowers. Which one's more beautiful? As I ask the question, you already have a prepared answer. So you're measuring two objects and you're making a decision about which one's more beautiful, right? Well, for that you need an instrument. What instrument do you have with you? Eyes? Pleasure? What else? Mind? Not any old mind. An ignorant mind. Doesn't an arahant have a mind? So if I've sat you next to an arahant and I ask the same question, which one of these flowers is the more beautiful one? What's he going to say? Or what's she going to say? They're just going to say, that question doesn't make sense. And don't they have a mind? Of course they have a mind. But what they don't have is an ignorant mind. What you have is an ignorant mind. This is what we have, an ignorant mind. So the equipment, the apparatus that we use to measure beauty is simply an ignorant mind. There is no thermometer or weighing scale or measuring tape that can tell you how beautiful something is. Is there? No. There is not an instrument out there that can tell you how yummy or how delicious or how sweet smelling something is, how tasty something is. There is no instrument for that. The only thing that can tell you which one's more beautiful than the other is really an ignorant mind. So it's ignorance. If you remove the common factor in a mind, an ignorant mind, the common factor is mind. Remove mind, remove the common factor, now you're just left with ignorance. A mind can't tell you which one's more beautiful, but an ignorant mind can. Remove the common factor, which is mind, now you're left with ignorance. So ignorance is what tells us something's more beautiful than the other. Doesn't that say something? So when you find one beautiful than the other, and you know now that it's ignorance that's dictating that, that's ignorance that helped you make that choice, doesn't that tell you something? That surely that beauty cannot be there in the outside world. Tasty cannot be there in the outside world. Delicious and yummy cannot be there in the outside world. Why? Because it's ignorance that made that decision. If it's there in the outside world, then there has to be an equipment that can measure it. Like weight. That can be measured. Temperature. That can be measured. Height. That can be measured. Length, width, breadth. All these things can be measured. You can check how old something is by using carbon dating. That can be measured. Pressure can be measured. Right? Fluidity can be measured. All these things can be measured. The angle of something can be measured. But can you measure beauty? There's no instrument for that. Why? How can you measure something that really doesn't exist? If something doesn't exist for real, how can you measure it? Okay, how tall or how large is the cat that's on my hand? How heavy is it? How heavy is the cat that I've got on my hand? How heavy is it? Beg your pardon? How heavy is the cat that's on my hand? How heavy is it? Why can you not give me an answer? Because there's no cat on my hand. There's nothing on my hand, therefore you can't give me an answer. So if it's not there, you can't measure it, can you? You can't measure something that's not there. You can't come up with an instrument to measure something that does not exist. How can you measure that? The speed of light can be measured, but you can't measure beauty. You can't measure yummy, delicious. None of these things can be measured, except for ignorance. Ignorance can measure that. And the truth of the matter is, different variants of ignorance come up with different answers. One says, this is beautiful. The other ignorant mind says, no, that is beautiful. Another ignorant mind says, no, neither of these are beautiful. The other one is beautiful. How come? How can that be? If you put the same object on a weighing scale, provided the weighing scales have been calibrated correctly, you're going to get the same result. But try measure beauty, you're going to get 3 answers. So something's wrong. What's wrong? Imagine, okay, let's say there's 3 weighing scales, right? You put an object on it, and you get 3 different answers. Where do you think the fault is? Is it with the object? Either all 3 are wrong, right? That could be possible. Or one's correct and the other 2 are wrong. So the fault is with the where? With the what? The weighing scale, not the object, right? That is the conclusion you would come to, yes or no? You measure the same object on 3 weighing scales and they come up with 3 different answers. 3 values, you're going to come to one of 2 conclusions. Either all 3 are wrong, or one is right and the other 2 are wrong. Yes? Yes. So I ask you, which of these flowers are beautiful? 3 people give me 3 answers. Where's the fault? Is it with the flower? Or is it with the instrument that we are using to measure it? Where's the instrument? It's in the mind. Ignorance. See, all these examples, you should help you understand that really there's a serious problem that we all have. Do you not see the risk with this? No, you have an instrument that you use on a daily basis, which is always giving you the wrong answers. You're walking around, going all over the world with an instrument to measure everything out there, and you're measuring things that really don't exist in the outside world, and 2, it's not being calibrated correctly. Do you not see the risk with that? It's like wearing glasses, and there's something wrong with your lenses. You see things that are, things that are really out there are further away than they appear. Or they are closer than they are really out there. Imagine if your glasses were like that. What you're seeing is not true. Because the real object is either further away than you see it is, than you perceive it to be, or it's closer than you perceive it to be. Do you not see a risk with that? You try and cross the road. Now the car that's approaching you, through your glasses, you're seeing that it's much further away than you think it is. That's how you're seeing it. So what's going to happen now? You're going to make the wrong choice, aren't you? Again, isn't what is life all about? Choices and the consequences. So you have a choice as you approach the road. Do I cross or do I wait for the car to pass? Now you're looking through your glasses and you're seeing that the car is much further away than it really is. What choice are you going to make? Let's cross. And as soon as you put your foot on the road and you start crossing, well, the fact that you saw it differently to than what it really is that going to make any difference to what's going to happen now? Is it going to make any difference? The fact that you perceived it differently to what it really is that going to make any difference to what's going to happen now? No. Because what's going to happen is going to happen, because what's going to happen is determined by what actually is out there, not how you perceived it. So whatever distance that car was is what's going to determine whether it's going to hit you as you cross the street. Now imagine you walk around with an instrument that is measuring things that really don't exist and is giving you the wrong readings all the time. And you make those choices based on those readings. Good heavens. Do you see the risk? You're walking around with an incorrectly calibrated instrument. And it's measuring something that doesn't even exist out there. Based on those readings, you're making choices about life. About life. Every moment you're making choices about life. And the problem is, you're going to have to suffer the consequences. Just because your instrument gave you a wrong reading doesn't mean the consequences are not going to come to you. You can't throw any extenuating circumstances. You can't come up with excuses. You can't say, can you please be lenient to me? I forgot to calibrate my instrument. You can't say that. When the consequences come, they come. And you're walking around. All the things you do in your life, people you meet, things you do, just living. Simple as that. Just living you're doing with this instrument that is measuring something that's not out there, that's not even out there, and it's giving you wrong readings. And based on that, you're making serious decisions about your life. Shall I name some of the decisions you made based on those readings? Shall I dare make some? Remind you of some of those decisions? You made based on readings you got from an instrument that measured something that really wasn't even out there, and it was wrongly calibrated. Marriage. Yes or no? How did you decide who you're going to get married to? What did you measure? Their weight? Come on, darling, come and stand on this scale so I can decide whether I'm going to marry you or not. Initial attraction is to what? What sets off the fireworks? Beauty. It's the attraction that you see when you look through your eyes. But that sight, based on which that initial attraction is based on, you're taking readings from this instrument. Beauty. Because it's not really out there. And then after beauty, what comes next? Now you want to know what she sounds like. What his voice is like. So you got closer. You start to have a conversation. And now you hear his or her voice. Again, what are you using to make this choice? This instrument of ignorance, which is not even measuring what's even something that's out there. Are you measuring the frequency? Is that what you're measuring? Okay, darling, speak so I can measure the frequency of your voice, so I can decide if you're a good choice for me. Okay, that's 22,365 hertz. You're 2 hertz out. No, not my type. Not my type. Because that you could measure with an instrument. But no, that's not what you used to measure. That's not what you went by. She's got a beautiful voice. She's got a sweet voice. What did you use to measure that? Ignorance. Do you not realize you're making a seriously fundamental choice about your life? A pretty serious choice about your life, and you're using an instrument that is completely flawed to make this choice. So that's marriage is one. Then what else? Kindness of another person. Sure. So how do you measure kindness? How do you determine if someone's kind? So the most important word in that statement is, if that person's nice to you. So whether someone's kind or not, ask a person who's not kind. Yes. Yeah. So, if you ask a person who you feel is not kind, are you kind? What are they going to say? Yeah. I'm a good guy. Yes. Absolutely, madam. And that's the most important point that I'm trying to emphasize here. Because what's kind to me is not what's kind to somebody else. Because it's subjective. So again, we are using an instrument that makes a subjective choice. So really then we are not measuring something that's out there. We are measuring what we perceive from our point of view. We have a reference point. Based on that we decide whether they are kind or unkind. Whether they are generous or not. Right? So think about this for a moment. You see a man you see a beggar on the street, okay? Two people walking up to this beggar, so you're the observer. One guy approaches this beggar, and he stops by the beggar, and you can see them having a brief conversation. And this man, he gives this person his lunch. A lunch that he has in his bag, he takes it and gives to this person. Now you're the observer, you're observing what's going on here, okay? Then another person approaches this beggar. And he again has another brief conversation with this person. And he also reaches into his bag. And you can see he's got a lunch packet because he pulls it out of his bag, but he doesn't give it to the beggar. He puts it back in. But he takes something else. Let's say a banana or something. So not the main lunch, but a banana. And then he hands it over to the beggar. Now you're the observer. So your job is to decide which one's more kind than the other. Which one's more generous. Immediately you're going to say, well, chances are it's going to be the man who gave his lunch, not just a banana. So we've made a choice based on what we have perceived. But the truth of the matter is, this man, the reason he gave the banana was because yesterday he walked past another poor person, another beggar, and he had a family, husband, wife and 3 children, who he promised, I'm going to bring you a lunch packet tomorrow so you don't have to be hungry. This time he only met this one person. But later on he's going to meet a whole family that he had promised to bring a packet of lunch. So this is why he saved his lunch and gave a banana to this man so that he could give this lunch packet to the other person. Now we are the observer, and it's down to us to make a choice. And we decide, no, this first man, he was the more kind person. He was more generous. See, he gave his entire lunch, but the other guy, he only offered his banana. We've made a subjective decision, not knowing all the facts. We've made a subjective choice. Because compared to us, this is what is true. So every time we make a choice, we are making a choice based on what is true to us. An ignorant mind. Again, ignorance is not knowing all the facts. That's what ignorance is. Right? Not knowing. Because if you knew all the facts, then would you think that there's pleasure in the outside world? No, that's simply what ignorance is. Not knowing that pleasure is not in the outside world. So again, ignorance in this example as well. Ignorant as to why this person only gave the lunch packet and why the other person only gave a banana. Ignorance, again, simple. Had you known all the facts, you would have probably said, actually no, it was the second guy. Because he's going to be making a much bigger offering later down the line. And as the lady rightly pointed out, what's kind to me is not what's kind to the other person. That is the problem. Because if kind is something that can be actually measured, then there has to be an instrument that can measure kindness. People would have invented it by now, oh yes. But you can't measure it. Because it's subjective. It can't be measured. So all these attributes that can't be measured, they're subjective. And what happens is, subjective to what we see is good and bad, what we see is right and wrong, then we take their side. We split the world in halves. The good half and the bad half. Whenever we have decided this is what generous is, now those people who are as generous as we think they ought to be, they're good people. Those people who are not so generous, they're bad people. You know, there are lots of times where people come into a monastery, right? And into the donation, they make a donation. Sometimes it's a few rupees, maybe 10 rupees, 20 rupees. An observer might think, why is that man so stingy? Why is he only donating 20 rupees? Why can't he not make a bigger donation than that? That's what he's supposed to do, right? If you go to a temple, make a good big donation. We are the observer. Because to us, 20 rupees is not a lot of money. So you think that's not a big donation? That's not very generous. But to him, that's all the money he has. That's perhaps a week's saving for that man. So he's given everything that he has as he came in. Again, we've made a choice based on ignorance. This is why when we have an ignorant mind, it's very dangerous to be making choices. Very, very, very dangerous to make choices. Because then we judge. This is why we are judgmental. Ignorance. This is why the Buddha says, only I or someone like me can judge somebody else. So who's someone like me? Another Buddha. Only a Buddha or another Buddha, in other words, only a Buddha, can judge somebody else, because only a Buddha knows everything about everything. That's why he's called a Sarvagnya, omniscient. Knows everything about everything. Because then you know all the factors that have played a part in making that choice. Now you can make a judgment about it. Is that the right choice? Is that the wrong choice? But everyone this side of that doesn't know everything about everything. Therefore, we can't be judgmental. Because what seems right to us is what we're going to say is the right choice. What seems wrong to us is what we're going to say is the wrong choice. And that's pretty dangerous. Because what happens, we make a choice, and that's more often than not a karma. Now, you have to bear the consequences. Oftentimes we get entangled in affairs that have nothing to do with us. How many times do you watch TV, right? People, they have debates about politics on TV, right? You watch TV, even without knowing it, you're going to take a side. Unbeknown to you, you're going to take a side. And then you're going to talk in favor of the person that you like, the party that you like. And whatever the other party says, whatever the other guy says, you're going to just keep throwing rebuttals back at them. You're just going to keep throwing statements that are going to say, no, this guy's silly. What's he saying? He doesn't even know what he's talking about. Because you've now taken a side. You've taken a side based on your views, your perspective. That's pretty dangerous. Who's to say that you've made the right choice? Because you don't know everything about everything, and that's a wrong choice to make. It's a very dangerous choice to make. So this is why you have to be very careful about making judgments about anybody. Try and not make judgments about people. Some occasions some situations you can't avoid that. Like at the workplace. If you have a way in which your employees have to conduct themselves, and they don't conduct themselves in those ways and means, then you have to make a choice. Do I keep this person employed, or do I give them the sack? Right? But I'm talking about Nibbana. I'm talking about what we need to do to prepare ourselves to get to Nibbana. The Buddha speaks of meritorious deeds and unmeritorious deeds. The 10 unmeritorious deeds, there are no ifs and buts about them. What's wrong is wrong. Killing is wrong, full stop. So last week there was we have this monthly conversation with some young children in Canada. So we do a sermon to them. And someone asked me about abortions and whether that's right or wrong, depending on the circumstances. What's wrong is wrong. There are no ifs, no buts. Taking away someone's life is wrong. Full stop. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. Because remember, the Buddha doesn't come into this world to give his opinion on things. He doesn't come into this world to give his opinion about things. He comes into this world to show us the universal truth. Whether you like to accept it or not, that's just the universal truth. So killing is wrong, no matter what the circumstances are. Stealing is wrong, no matter what the circumstances are. But you ask a robber, was it right for you to steal that? Of course. Look at my family. They have nothing to eat. They haven't eaten in months. But this man that I stole from, he has a lot of money. So surely, there's nothing wrong with that. Now they can justify themselves. But it doesn't matter who you've stolen from. It doesn't matter what purpose you have stolen for. If you've stolen, that's wrong. You have just committed an unmeritorious deed. Was it not ignorance that you used to make that choice? Again, see, using ignorance to make choices, it's okay, provided you are happy to accept the consequences. Always make choices if you are prepared to accept the consequences. And if you don't know what the consequences are, then be very careful because you are ignorant. That is very, very, very dangerous. So do what you need to do to come out of ignorance as soon as possible. I don't know if you're getting the serious nature of the point that I'm trying to get across to you. This is a very serious point that I'm trying to get across to you. We are all ignorant, more or less. Through ignorance, we make choices on a daily basis. Every moment we make a choice. Because of ignorance, we don't know what the consequences are of our choices. So every step you take, you could be walking into a deadly trap. Do you not realize the danger with that? Every step you take, you could be walking into a deadly trap. Every step you take could be the last step you take. Because of ignorance. So ignorance has to be the biggest problem in all our lives, nothing else. There can't be a bigger problem than that, than ignorance. Not knowing what the consequences are of these actions. But the thing is, only if you become a Buddha do you know exactly what the consequences are of all actions. So the ignorance that the Buddha teaches us to fix is not that ignorance. The ignorance that he teaches us to fix is remove a particular type of ignorance after which you stop doing karma. The reason that we conduct karma, the reason that we do deeds as in karma, is because we think the outside world is pleasurable. That is why. Remove that ignorance. We no longer do deeds. No longer do karma. Now, there are no consequences to come to us, good or bad. Who decides whether a consequence is good or bad? Again, that's subjective. Again, that's subjective. Right? A girl is born to a family. She's very pretty. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Yes. Not just the country, depending on your environment, depending on who your next door neighbor is. Next door neighbor is a pedophile. No? See? You can't tell. You can't even tell if the consequences are good or bad, let alone the karma. So whatever karma you're doing, there's a huge risk. There's a real risk with that. In some countries, if you're pretty, I mean, also back in the time of the kings, right? if you are born beautiful, conventional beautiful, because ultimately there's nothing called beautiful. Conventionally, if you are considered to be a beautiful person, beautiful woman, what happens is you end up as one of the king's courtesans. So you have no choice about it. But one offers flowers and hope, may I be beautiful in my next birth. People wish for these things. May I be beautiful in my next birth. This is why I'm offering these flowers to the Buddha. You wished for beauty. You got it now. Now, beasts are coming to get you. Because for as long as you have something that people out there in the world are looking for, you're in a Pandora's box. You're just attracting trouble. So really, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're beautiful or not, whether you're educated or not, none of these things can really determine whether you can lead a peaceful life. The only time you can lead a peaceful life is how much Dhamma you understand, how much Dhamma you comprehend. Your Margapala. That's all. Otherwise, you're just subject to whatever the world throws at you. And that's pretty serious. That's pretty dangerous. The reason that we do these karmas is because of ignorance. Time and time again, there's pleasure in the outside world. I have to bring pleasure into my world. And for that we do good deeds and bad deeds. To bring pleasure into my world. So this is really serious stuff. I hope you can understand the gravity of what I'm trying to get across to you. Can you? It ought to be. Because you can't tell whether it's good to be born beautiful or ugly. Because what if you're born ugly? Conventionally, ugly. Now, nobody looks at you. Nobody cares for you. Now your parents have a really tough time giving your hand off in marriage. Chances are then you might end up in a marriage in which you're not really taken care of, and that might be the path that you have to go down. What if you're born really beautiful? Now the person that marries you might actually marry you for other reasons than really caring about you. Because they're a pervert. So they marry you for other reasons. I have heard lots of stories where sometimes men get into these relationships, they get married to women for nothing other than, and then that's not the only marriage, it's bigamy. They get into these relationships, get married to women, only to sell them off into the sex trade. A couple of years later, this man's marrying again. What happened to the previous marriage? Oh, she's off in some country involved in the sex trade. So, which one's better? Being born beautiful or ugly? Which one's better? Having a lot of money or not having much money? You tell me. Neither of them. Which one's better? Having a lot of education? Good education or not having much education? Again you fail there as well. Most of the time when people are very educated, it's very difficult to give them the Dhamma. Because their education gets the better of them. Because I know it all. And it's very difficult to teach the Dhamma to a lot of people who consider themselves to have a good education. Very difficult. Because of ego. I know it all. I'm here to see if you know what I know. And people come along to sermons like that. Believe me, the number of times I've sat down in front of sometimes young couples Either the husband or the wife, they want to come down, they want to go down the path of Dhamma. But their spouse is not prepared for that. That's because they have a good education. So they consider themselves to be highly educated. Some university lecturers, some professors, some doctors, right? Some qualified, certified engineers. They come along and say, what Buddhism? This is nonsense. And then we try and reason with them, try and explain to them why Buddhist philosophy is the only doctrine that can actually save you. Nothing goes into their heads. Because I know it all. I'm just here to see if you know what I know. So is it good to have a good education? Or is it good not to have that much of an education? If you want to live in this world and try and live happily, then what's the answer? Still you don't know. You don't know. You can't tell. Is it good to be a powerful man with lots of connections? Or is it good to be a man that no one really knows about? Who are some powerful people out there? Politicians? Do you think they have peace of mind as they walk about? Do you think they can go for a walk like you and I can do? Just go for a walk in the park? Take their dog for a walk? Do you think they can go on their bike for a ride? Why, they're powerful. So which one's better? You can't tell that. Because you don't know what consequences you're attracting. You can't say that. This is why there is no way out of this. Neither side is the better side. Left or right, they're both wrong. Up or down, both wrong. Because you don't know what trouble you're attracting to yourselves. This is why the only good place to be is a place that's not in this world. That is why we have to get out of this place. Because everyone has enemies and everyone has friends. Do you not all have enemies and friends? Who here only has friends and no enemies? You might think, I don't have enemies. That's what you think. Ask your enemy. Everybody has friends and enemies. Okay, think about us as Swamin Wahanses. Don't you think we have friends and enemies? Again, I might not have an enemy, but there are people out there who consider me their enemy. Right? So was it better for me to have stayed a layperson or become ordained? More people hate me now than people used to hate me as a layperson. Seriously. It was much less of a risk for me to walk about as a layperson than it is now as a monk. So which one's better? Being a layperson or living a life as an ordained person? Which one's better? The answer is neither. Existence in any way, shape or form is just a hornet's nest. You're just attracting trouble to you. Because there will be people in this world who like you in that way, and there will be others who don't like you. Whatever state you are in, there are people who like you in that state, and then there are others who don't like you in that state. Because people don't like states. Not United States, just states. They don't like states. This is why they do abhisankara, to change the state. Remember, people consider that the problem is where? With them or the outside world? So compared to you all, what am I? Part of your outside world, right? So for as long as you believe that your happiness is outside of you, then I am partly a component of your happiness. So if you consider your happiness to be in the outside world, then what will you try to do? Change yourself or change me? You'll try to change me. So you will say, Swaminatha hasn't shaved today. It's not nice. Look at the way he's wearing his robe. Not nice. Because it's not fitting. Your configuration. The configuration that you like, it doesn't fit. Swaminatha shouldn't speak like that. It's not nice. I don't like that. Change. Change, change. Always change. Guru Swaminatha said a really, really interesting point yesterday in the sermon, if any of you came along to listen. He said, whatever problem you try to solve, the solution to whatever problem is another problem. The solution to every problem is another problem. He gave a really interesting example. He said, people who, young people, as they grow up, and then it becomes, you find it lonely to live by yourself. I need someone to talk to, need someone to have a chat with. It's lonely living by myself. Then you decide, I should probably get married. So you're finding a solution to your problem, the problem of loneliness. You can fill in the rest. So then you go and get married. You have just found a solution to your original problem. Yeah, absolutely. You have just brought along another problem. And chances are, it's a bigger problem than the original problem that you tried to solve. Oftentimes in life, this is what we do. To fix one problem, you invite another problem into your life as the solution to the original problem. So what must we do then? We live life trying to find solutions to problems. Isn't that if we were to summarize our life, isn't that what we've been trying to do? Trying to find solutions to problems? Education, what was that for? A solution to a problem, right? How do we live when our parents are no longer there to look after us? How do we live? So we need an education. We need to earn ourselves a living wage. Then build ourselves a house. Why? Problem. Solution? Build a house. Buy a house. Get some kind of shelter. Again, wasn't that another problem? Now you have a home. Isn't that a problem? Who's going to have to look after your house? Me? No, you. Who has to remove all the cobwebs, sweep the house, fix the broken taps, fix leaking pipes, change the carpets every few years, fix the leaking roof tiles? Right? Who's got to do all this? You wanted to fix one problem, so you went and found a solution. What have you just brought along to yourself? Another problem. So what must we do then? What we must do is, while we go along fixing problems by finding solutions, let's not make that the purpose of our lives. The purpose of our lives must be to find the cause for the problem and treat the cause of the problem. If you treat the cause for the problem, then the problem goes away. Not keep the problem and find a solution. We feel hunger, right? So what's the solution for hunger? Eat. Now you just found yourself a solution. But after you've eaten, now what happens? Another problem, right? Another problem. Cholesterol, diabetes, right? High blood pressure, too much sugar, too much salt, problems. But what if you did something to fix the problem? Not solve the problem, take away the problem. What if you didn't fall hungry? What if you didn't become hungry? To not become hungry, what must be the case? What must happen for you to not feel hungry again? Not be born. Yes. Not be born. For as long as you have a stomach, that stomach is going to be emptied from time to time, and then you're going to feel hunger. So for as long as you have a stomach, you're going to be hungry. And how long are you going to have a stomach? For as long as you're a living being. So for as long as you're going to be born, you're going to have a stomach that's going to be empty and that's going to feel hunger. So if you rather fix the problem, stop birth, then all the problems go away with that. No more problems to solve. No more questions to solve. But if you put that to a side and then just try and live life, trust you me, you should know this, not trust me, trust yourselves, your own experiences in your life. Every day, every hour of every day, you're fixing, you're trying to find solutions to life's problems. This is an endless paper. Question after question after question. You're trying to find some solutions to your life's problems. You know, recently I was trying to explain what the service of the Buddha was to some of our young monks. And a kind of an analogy came to mind. Any of you watch Prison Break? I don't want these things now, okay? Just so you know. I used to watch them. I enjoyed those kind of serials back then, not now. I have much better things to do with my time now. Right? So there's a prison. I was trying to explain to them the difference between, and I don't know I'll give you the Sinhala terms. One is anatha, the other is asarana. They mean two different things. So I think anatha is the word I want to use is destitute. Let's use that. Okay, destitute. Destitute means hopeless. Hopeless. Asarana is helpless. Would that do? Okay. So hopeless and helpless. Okay. I was trying to explain to them the difference between these two terms and why we say kamaloka anathai and not kamaloka asaranai. There's a reason for that. When we do the Arya-Maitreya, we say kamaloka anathai eing midetva, not kamaloka asaranai eing midetva. There's a difference. There's a reason. And why we say buddhang saranang gacchami. We don't say buddhang natang saranam gacchami. We say buddhang saranang gacchami. So there's a difference between these two terms. And I was trying to explain the difference between these two terms. So for that I use the analogy of the prison. Imagine there's a prison and two people, a man and a woman, for whatever reason they are imprisoned. Okay? They've been now put into prison, and so they have been sentenced to prison, and now they have to live in this prison for a period of time. Let's say they've been imprisoned for life. These people, they know that there's a world outside. Do they not? Because they were imprisoned while they were living in the outside world. So they know that there's a world outside. So every day that they spend in prison, what are they hoping for? What are they hopeful of? Getting out of prison. Yes, they have been imprisoned for life, but that doesn't take away their hope, does it? No matter what, every day they try to find a way to get out of prison. Now imagine these two people, this man and woman, they make a child. They bring a child into this world. So this child is born in the prison. This child grows up in prison. Does this child know anything about the world outside prison? No. They don't know anything about a world outside of the four walls. All they know is, this is my world, this is all there is. So this child, do you think he or she has any interest in trying to get out of prison? No. Why? Because they're ignorant. They know nothing about a world outside these four walls, because this is all my world is. Whereas the parents, they know about an outside world. The child does not know anything about an outside world. The parents, they try every day to try and find some help to get out of prison. Whereas the child, all the child wants to do is try and live happily within these four walls. For example, if he's only given 2 meals a day, he might go and ask for 3 meals a day. If you only get rice and 2 curries, he might say, can we have a 3rd curry, please? Because he just wants to live happily in the prison. He knows nothing about a world outside the prison. He might ask for a more comfortable bed. He might ask for more playtime. He might ask for screen time, TV, to watch TV, right? So all these things he asks so that he can live happily within these four walls. Whereas the parents, that's not what they're interested in. They couldn't care less. Their main concern is what? How do we get out of prison? This is the difference between asarana and anatha. This is the difference between hopeless and helpless. The parents are helpless. They need help to get out of here. Right now they don't have any help. Because they can't do this by themselves, but they know that there's a problem. They know that being stuck within these four walls is a problem because I want to get out, but there's no one here to help me. Whereas the child is hopeless. The child has no hope of getting out. Why? Because they don't know about an outside world. They think, this is my world, let's just try and be happy while we're here. The parents are helpless, asarana. The child is hopeless, anatha. For the child to come to know that there is an outside world, this child absolutely needs somebody to come and tell them there is a world out there. Although you don't know about it, there's a world out there, outside these four walls. I think you had better try and find a way to get out of here. Until someone says this, what is this child going to do? Just try and make a good living within these four walls, isn't he? This is all his interest, because he doesn't know about an outside. He's ignorant, completely ignorant. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, we have Anatha Natha Anan Vahanse. This is why we call the Buddha Anatha Natha. Those beings who've been hopeless in samsara, not even knowing that there's a problem. The child doesn't know that there's a bigger problem than what am I going to have for dinner tonight. The child doesn't know that there's a bigger problem than why is my bed uncomfortable. The child doesn't know that there's a bigger problem. The bigger problem is I'm in a prison. There's a whole world out there. All sentient beings, you and I, we didn't know that there was a problem until the Buddha came into our life. Did we? Because all we were interested in was, how do we live a good life? How do we get through this rat race? Our problem was, how do I earn myself a living? How do I get myself a good education? How do I find myself a good wife? How do I find myself a good husband? How do I get myself a nice car? Right? Weren't these our problems in life? Isn't this what we spend 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of our lives trying to do? How do I make a good living? Until Anatha Natha Anan Vahanse, the Buddha came into our life. And the Buddha coming into our life is the Dhamma coming into our life. What is the Buddha if not the Dhamma? Yo Dhammang Passati So Mam Passati, right? When the Buddha came into our life, we realized, hang on a second, this is not the problem. What we are going to have for dinner tonight is not the problem. How do I give my child a good education is not the problem. How do I buy my next car? How do I get myself a loan? How do I get myself another mortgage is not the problem. There's a much, much, much bigger problem at hand. And that problem is, I am in the prison of samsara. I need to get the hell out of here. But we didn't know that until the Buddha came into our life. So once you have gone beyond hopelessness, the next stop is helplessness. Now you know you have a problem. Now you need help. Remember when Angulimala came running to the Buddha with a sword in his hand. He used lots of abusive terms to the Buddha. Stop, you bald-headed monk. I'm going to chop off your fingers. Stop. This is how Angulimala shouted at the Buddha. At which point the Buddha preached the Dhamma to Angulimala. Something very, very, very short. Like, as we know, it was Angulimala, it's not me who's running, you're running, so you had better stop, not me. At that point, Angulimala realized there's a bigger problem, because he is a hermit, or at least that's how we saw him. He is a hermit, he is a monk, who's trying to explain to me that there's a much bigger problem at hand. He says, I'm running, when actually he's the guy who's running. He says he has stopped, when actually he's moving. I've stopped. So there's a bigger problem here that I don't understand. I need help. Now he realizes he needs help. This is when Angulimala gets on his knees. And now he listens to the Buddha again, giving a discourse. And finally he says, Buddha, I realize that I have a much bigger problem at hand. I want to get out of this samsara. Now, accept me as an upasaka in your ministry. Accept me as someone who seeks homage in the Buddha. Now he says, Buddhang saranang gacchami. Now he says, Dhammang saranang gacchami. Now he says, Sanghang saranang gacchami. Remember, he became a Sotapanna before he said, Buddhang saranang gacchami. Not saying Buddhang saranang gacchami and then became a Sotapanna. No, he became a Sotapanna first. When you become a Sotapanna, that's when you know you need the Buddha's help to get out of here. That's when you know you are in the prison of samsara. Until you become a Sotapanna, you don't realize that there's a big problem here. Until you become a Sotapanna, you think life's biggest problem is, how do I make a living tomorrow? How can I earn more money? How can I get more return for my investments? How can I have another child? These are your biggest problems in life. So, here's the best way to check if you are a Sotapanna. What's the biggest problem in your life? If when I tell you what is the biggest problem in your life, and genuinely, you can't fool yourself, because if there's one person you can't fool, who is that? Yourself. You can fool me. You can't fool yourself though. You can't fool yourself and you can't fool the Buddha. But you can fool anybody else if you wanted to. Okay? So ask yourself, what is my biggest concern? What is my biggest problem? What is my number one priority? Is it how I get my next promotion? Is it how I make my next million? Is it how I get myself a visa so I can get myself to another country? How do I get myself a green card? Is that your biggest problem? How do I get myself employed? Is that your biggest problem? How do I get my mortgage? How do I repay my loans? Is that your biggest problem? If that is your biggest problem, chances are you're not a Sotapanna yet. If you are a Sotapanna, there is no doubt the biggest problem that you're going to have is the problem of being stuck in samsara. Because there is no bigger problem than that. There is no bigger problem than that, than this problem of being stuck in samsara. But to understand that, first you have to move one step away from being destitute, from being hopeless. Now you are hopeful, but you need help. Therefore you seek homage in the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. As I mention this, something comes to mind, and I'll point it out at this point because it just flows with what we were talking about. You know, when you observe the precepts before we begin the sermons, right? Last week I reminded you when I was listening to see if you were saying it correctly, but I think it is useful for me to remind you. When you say Buddhang saranang gacchami, remember it's not Buddhang, it's Buddhang. It's how you pronounce it. It matters. Buddha, not Buddha. Not Buddha. Who's Buddha? There's no one called the Buddha. It's Buddha. Because there's a meaning behind the word Buddha. It's not just a person. The meaning of Buddha is this promise that you make to yourself to eradicate existence. Bhava, Uddha. That's how you get Buddha. Uddha is not Uddha. So when you say Buddhang saranang gacchami, there's a meaning behind it. Dhammang saranang gacchami, not Dhammang saranang gacchami. Not Dhammang. What's Dhammang? Dhammang. Dhamma. And then Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, not Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Sangha. Sangha and Sangha are two completely opposite meanings. Sangha is the coming together of defilements. Avidya and Tanha, that is Sang, right? And Ga is coming together, Sangha. So coming together of Avidya and Tanha, is that what you seek homage in? Ignorance and attachment? So when you say Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, what you're really meaning is, I seek homage in ignorance and attachment. It's not Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, it's Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Sangha is to eradicate. Gha. Gasadana. To eradicate, to extinguish. So when you recite the stanzas, make sure you say Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, and Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. That's important. At least it's important that you understand the difference between the two. Much more than how you pronounce it. But at least if you pronounce it that way, then I think when you say it, you will reflect on the meaning behind it. Otherwise it's just words, and that doesn't do anyone any good. So remember, Angulimala, he said Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Sanghang Saranang Gacchami after he became a Sotapanna. Because now what he's saying is, I need the refuge of the Buddha to get out of this prison. Because I know now I'm in a prison of samsara. Because it's only from time to time you find someone who comes into this world and realizes that, hey, these four walls, I'm seeing a crow fly over this wall, but they just disappear. Something's going on here. Right? For someone to recognize for themselves without somebody else's help that they're in a prison. There's a bird flying over the wall. I can see only so far, and after that, what happened to the bird? Just disappeared? How can that be? If the wind is blowing, where did the wind come from? So they start asking questions of themselves. Then they realize there has to be something beyond these four walls. This takes a lot of wisdom to start thinking. I'm of course using only an analogy here, right? So the Buddha would have done this with the prison of samsara. And then they begin to ask themselves, so there has to be something beyond these four walls. Now he starts exploring. And then he starts to discover, actually, we are all imprisoned. We are imprisoned. So I have to get out of here. Now he goes and walks around the four walls, works on the perimeter, trying to find the weak point so he can get out. And he finds 84,000 different points through which you can get out of here. 84,000, not one or two. 84,000 different points in the perimeter wall that can be broken through to get out. This is only in the Buddha's time. And then, because he's not only interested in his salvation, but also in the salvation of all the inmates in the prison, he opens up all those 84,000 openings in the walls. And he says, right, time's up now, let's all get out of here. In the time of the Buddha, there was a deluge of people who attained Margaphala, as in, got out of the prison. A deluge then because there were 84,000 paths and they were all very clear, crystal clear. But now, those paths have been covered up again. Bushes, trees, grass, mud, right? These paths, they have become, they're no longer very clear like they used to be. So this is why we have to be very cautious about where we step. Some of these might be traps. Because the Mara's guards are always watching out. They don't want us getting out of prison. They want you in prison. Because for as long as you're in prison, the prison's going to prosper. Because for as long as there are inmates in the prison, they're going to do service in the prison. Clean the walls, clean the toilets, grow plants, right? They're going to keep the prison very beautiful. But when there are no inmates, then who's going to look after the prison? So the prison warden, who is Mara, is going to be interested in keeping you in prison, not helping you get out of prison. So he's going to set traps. This is why you have to be careful. This is why the Buddha gives you a sure and short way of knowing if you're heading in the right direction. If the next step you take is one that's going to actually take you into a trap or really get you out of prison. And that's where he says, Raga ke, Desha ke, Moha ke, Nibbana. This is how you know if the next step you're taking is one that's going to be taking you out of prison. Raga, desire. Raga ke. Are you extinguishing the fire of raga? Are you extinguishing the fire of aversion, dvesha? Are you extinguishing the fire of moha, delusion? So only you know that. I can only tell you. The Buddha can only tell you, but you have to walk yourself. There's no one to hold your hand. You have to walk by yourself. You can't do it for your child. You can't do it for your husband or your wife. You have to do it for yourself. The only thing you can do for your family is be a Satpurusha. Teach them the path, but they have to do it for themselves. There's no savior in Buddhist philosophy. There is one in other philosophies, but not in Buddhist philosophy. We don't have a savior. We have a teacher. A teacher who can teach us, and then it's down to each and every one of us to walk the path. So, life is nothing but a series of problems. Is it not? Just think about the last 24 hours. From the moment you woke up, what did you do other than finding solutions to problems? Hunger, bills, children, work, car, wife, husband. Every time I say one of these, what comes to mind? All the problems that you have to solve. Problems. Parents, again, problems. One after the other is just problems. So life has become nothing other than an enterprise where all you're doing is just solving problems. Is that what you came into this world for? This is my question to you. Did you come into this world to solve problems? You've got more problems in your hand than Donald Trump has. And no one's going to help you solve them either. You're solving them all by yourself. At least Donald Trump has his staff to help him. You have to solve them all by yourself. Isn't that what you're doing? Yes, sir. That's a very good question. What do you think? Is there a purpose in life? What do you think? Is there a purpose to life? Yes? Are you convinced about that though? That you don't want to have another life? Is Nirvana a state? Is it somewhere where you can go and live happily ever after? Oh dear. No, I'm saying true, but doesn't that frighten you? Yes, it does for some people. But there's nowhere to go after this? No way, I'm not after that. Because people like to be happy being somewhere. Most people. They don't like the concept of not being anywhere. Most people like to be somewhere without problems. They don't like the concept of not being anywhere. But the problem is there anywhere where you can be without a problem? So if you don't like problems, then where's the only place you can be? Nowhere. If you don't like problems, the only place you can be is nowhere. That's where. Nowhere. The purpose of life, as you have all rightly said, should be, and this is what we have covered in a lot of our initial sermons, happiness. That's where I start, usually with new listeners. Because, talk to someone who's completely new to the Dhamma. Would you like to attain Nibbana? They're going to say yes. But they don't know what they're saying. They're going to say yes because it's the right thing to say. You're in a temple, you're being asked by a monk. He's probably going to be upset if you didn't say yes, because then he's going to second guess himself. So the right thing to say in a temple is, yes, I want to attain Nibbana. But most people don't even know the first thing about what Nibbana is. Most people don't even know that. Most Buddhists don't know what Nibbana is. Most Buddhists, most people, 99.99999, and I can keep on going saying 9 until the end of this sermon, and I'll have still more 9s to add. Right? A very, very, very tiny fraction of all sentient beings really understand the true purpose of life. If the purpose of life is happiness, then really we must be always mindful about, are the things that we are doing truly taking us to happiness? If every problem you're solving is inviting another problem, how does that bring us happiness? You're just jumping from the pan to the fire. One problem to another problem, that's all we're doing. Just jumping from one problem to another problem. How is that happiness? This is, as I said, right? A young guy lives at home, his parents look after him, and then one day he decides, I'm going to get married. You ask him why? Because I'm lonely, I need someone to talk to, I need someone to share my life with. So that's the problem that they have. Now they go and find a solution, and the solution is, bring someone home. Now, you've just brought home another Pandora's box. Because all this time you only had yourself to worry about. Now, double trouble. Yes or no? Yes. We shouldn't be ashamed about these things. This is the truth. We should be ashamed of not being willing to accept the truth. That's what we should be ashamed of. Should you be ashamed to go and tell the doctor what's wrong with you? You've got an infection. It's in your groin. Should you be ashamed to go and tell your doctor? Doctor, I've got something wrong with me. What is it? I'm so ashamed to tell you, I can't tell you. I'm too shy. How can I treat you? I don't know, but I'm just too shy, I can't tell you. Well, what can I do? Well, can you treat me for something? Okay, here's a paracetamol for a headache. Thank you. Are they going to walk away with the right treatment? No. So we should not be ashamed to accept that we have a problem. We should be ashamed to not have the guts, to not have the courage to accept what the real problem is. We have all made mistakes in our lives. Coming into this world was the biggest mistake. Because if we had not made that mistake in our last birth, we wouldn't be here today. I'm not proud about the fact that I'm a monk sat on this seat and preaching the Dhamma to you. I'm not proud about that. I'm ashamed about that. Would you believe me if I said that? I'm ashamed of that. Why? Why did I have to become a monk in this birth? Yes, because I didn't complete my job last time round. Remember, I had to become a monk. I had to. Much less of a choice. I had to. Because this is the only way I can accelerate this journey as much as I possibly can, while I've still got my life with me. I had to. Looks like you didn't have to. I had to. I'm ashamed about the fact that I'm a monk today. Why? Because I was born. So I had to become a monk. Because last birth I didn't do what I had to do. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that I have eyes. Are you ashamed of that you have eyes? I'm ashamed that I have ears. I'm ashamed that I have a nose. What is that telling you? If you see someone with eyes, ears, nose and a tongue, that they are vexing. That they are vexing. You're vexing for sights. That's why you have a pair of eyes, to relieve you of a vexation. This is why I always say, if you're in the middle of a crowd, or you're in somewhere, in the midst of other people, someone brings in a cake, right? Now what happens to you? Mouth starts watering. Do you like to show other people that your mouth is watering? No, you're ashamed of that, aren't you? You don't like to show that to other people, your mouth is watering. What you might generally do is look away and then swallow it, without anybody seeing that your mouth has been watering. Or you might even be, can I just have a glass of water, please? Because you just don't want to show other people that your mouth is watering. So you're ashamed that you're vexing. Are you not? You're ashamed that you're vexing. Because now you have a smell. The smell has just come into your world and now you're vexing because you want it. You're ashamed of that. So you're ashamed of vexation. Well, what is the fact that you have a tongue, a nose, ears, eyes, telling the world that you're vexing? This is why I say, is it better that we have a nose, a tongue and a body, and Anagami Brahmas, in the Rupachara Brahmas, they don't have them. They only have eyes and ears. Are we not better off? Aren't we better off than them? They don't have a nose, we have a nose. They don't have a tongue, we have a tongue. They don't have a body, we have a body. So are we not better than them? They are better. Why? Yes, because they are not vexing as much as we are. So it's not something that we need to get off on the rooftops and start shouting the world about and say, hey, look, I've got all these 5 senses. We should be ashamed of that. Because we are vexing. What is the cause of vexation? Attachment. So what is the cause of attachment? Ignorance. So the fact that you have a pair of eyes, what are you telling me? I am ignorant. The fact that you have ears, nose and a tongue and a body, what are you telling me? I am ignorant. So how really can you look at another person, just like you, who's also got eyes, ears, nose, tongue and a body and go, you're beautiful? Are you not just appreciating an ignorant person? You're appreciating a fool. What you should be saying is, you ignorant fool. Absolutely. For as long as you are in the Rupavachara Brahma worlds and not in the hells, anywhere between these two, so human world, the 6 Deva worlds and the 16 Rupavachara Brahma worlds, you can attain Nibbana. Because you need the sense of hearing to listen to the Dhamma. But once you go into the Arupavachara Brahma worlds, now you don't have no sight, you just have the mind. So you can't become a Sotapanna. But if you go there having become a Sotapanna, now you can fulfill the subsequent stages of Sakurdagami, Anagami and Arahat. But the point you make is a very good one, sir. And that is, these organs that we have, particularly the organ of sound or ears, are crucial for us to become a Sotapanna. But the problem that I pose to you is, if you've been alive for 60 years, how much of that time did you really use it for that purpose? How much of the sounds that you have listened to, all the hours of sounds that you have listened to, have been for the purpose of attaining Sotapanna? Versus the time that you have spent trying to find pleasure in the outside world. Is it not shameful? We have been abusing our organs. We have been abusing our eyes, our ears, our nose, our tongue and our body. Abusing. Seriously, this is abuse. Remember I talked about the cricket match? And how you think it's fun to watch cricket? Were you here? Some of you were here. But it's nothing but a series of vexation and relief from vexation. Vexation and relief from vexation. Vexation and relief from vexation. Nothing else. From the point that the bowler comes in with the ball in his hand, now you're vexing. If you've got a favorite side, now you're vexing. You don't know how that ball might turn out. So you're vexing. And the moment the ball is thrown, bounces on the pitch and goes to the batsman, again, you're constant vexation. If you're favouring in the batsman's side, now the batsman whacks the ball away. End of vexation? The ball's in the air. End of vexation? No, still vexing. You see a guy running, a fielder running under the ball. Constant vexation. Non-stop vexation from the moment the ball is released. Now the fielder runs under the ball and he catches the ball. Then he drops the ball. And he catches it again. Do you see how you have become a puppet of the outside world? People out there, how they've made you a puppet. They say jump, you jump. Sit, sit. Jump, jump. Sit, sit. Why? Be happy. Okay, happy. Now vex again. Vex. Be happy again. Happy. You have simply become a puppet of the outside world. And alongside that, they put adverts. While you're going through this series of vexation, relief from vexation, vexation, relief from vexation, adverts. Why? The reason that they have caught you, the reason that they're able to keep you sat in front of the television is because you think that pleasure comes from watching the game. So you're sat in front of the TV watching that game. Why? Well, you're vexing watching it, so the only way you're going to be relieved of vexation is by watching the game. Now they've made you a puppet. They're abusing you. You don't realize this. And you're okay with that. I'm okay if you're okay. I'm just saying, you seem to be okay with this. That you're going through constant series of vexations and relief from vexation. That pleasure is nothing other than relief from vexation. And you know this by now. The same goes, because the other day I was thinking, the same goes for computer games. Right? Because I know a lot of parents have problems with this with their children. Addicted to computer games. What are computer games again? The same thing. The moment you start playing that game, what are you going into? Vexation. And now you have to earn a certain number of points. You have to collect a certain number of coins or whatever, weapons, or what do they have in these days, games these days? Jewels, or I don't know. Whatever you have to collect, whatever obstacle you have to get through, these are all vexations. And relief from vexation. The world has made a puppet out of your child. Seriously, if you think about it seriously, this is abuse. This is child abuse. If you seriously think about it, this, dear ladies and gentlemen, is child abuse. How do the producers make their money? They sell the game to your child. Your child comes and says, Ammi, can I play the game? You say, okay, but only for half an hour. What you're really telling the child is, It's okay to be abused. Just make sure you only get abused for half an hour. I'm not saying don't let them play games if they're asking for it. They're your child, not my child. You can choose to do whatever you like with them, which is unfair, but that's how you do anyway. What I'm saying is, if you are someone who lets your child play games, at least be decent about it and give them the gift of Dhamma. Help them understand that the pleasure that they're experiencing while they're playing these computer games is nothing other than relief from vexation. And what's causing the vexation is the game itself. Is the game itself. That's all it is. Whether you play Mario or whatever game, that's the only thing that comes to mind right now. I wasn't much of a computer game fan. My favorite game was Super Mario. That says how old I am, right? So trying to escape those owls, trying to collect as many coins as you can. This was my childhood. Oh, and Need for Speed. But again, vexation. And then relief from vexation. I remember how I used to be addicted. These were the only two games I think I remember playing. I like my car games. And Need for Speed was the only game I played in car games. I remember being addicted. I had it on my phone, and before that I had it on my computer. I used to sit in front of the computer, and sometimes, believe you me, so the aim of this game was to come first. Then you get the most amount of points or whatever, cash. If about halfway through the game I realized I'm not going to be coming out first, I used to reset the game and start from beginning. Because I didn't like to fail. Because the vexation was too much to handle. I just couldn't take it. I just couldn't handle coming second. Now, isn't that also teaching your children, don't accept coming second? Now your children are not prepared to accept failures in life. Now competition becomes the most important thing for them. Now they go into the world and all they want to be is number one. What happens when everybody wants to be number one? That's when you have a war. When everybody wants to be number one. You didn't realize all this started at home. Parents, really, we need to think more seriously about what we do to our children. Because they depend on you for that. Remember, your children are hopeless. Not helpless. They are hopeless. Until they grow up, until they become adults, they are hopeless because they don't know any different. They don't know what's good or wrong, right for them. Good or bad for them. They don't know what's right or wrong for them. So they depend on you to show them the path. To teach them right from wrong. So if all you're teaching them is vex and relief from vexation. Vex and relief from vexation. Vex and then relief from vexation. That's all they're going to know. If you don't give them the Dhamma. Again, as I say, I'm not saying don't let them play with the PlayStation or the Nintendos or whatever you have these days. I'm not saying don't do that. What I'm saying is, if you're a responsible parent, while you let them do that, you're also going to teach them the Dhamma. You're going to help them understand that asking to go and play for half an hour in front of the computer, they might as well ask to go and spend half an hour in hell. They might as well ask for half an hour in hell. A lot of people, they go and do meditation to relieve themselves from the stresses of life, don't they? You must have done that yourself sometimes in your lives. Go and do meditation to relieve yourself from stress. When you do meditation, what do you practice? Either you might reflect on the qualities of the Buddha, qualities of the Dhamma, qualities of the Sangha. Or you might practice Anicca Dukkha Anatta. And some might, practice on the breath, whatever. Okay? But if you do proper meditation, what you're doing is, not relieving yourself of vexation, because that is not proper meditation. You're seeking the source of vexation and removing it. So this is not plastering over the problem, removing the cause of the problem, not finding a solution to the problem, removing the problem itself. That is what proper meditation is. And that's really good, because the reason that people do enjoy, and at the end of last week we saw the end of our second meditation program at the monastery, and some of you were fortunate enough to be there, and that was a program for adults. So you're welcome to come along to future sessions if you're interested. Make sure you give your names beforehand so we can reserve a place for you. But during the course of that program, during the course of the entire week from Monday to Friday, what we did was we practiced anicca dukkha anatta. Whatever karmasthana it was anicca dukkha anatta. It's like the alphabet. There are only 26 letters in the alphabet, but there are many millions of words that you can make out of these letters of the alphabet. So karmasthanas are like that. Anicca dukkha anatta are like the letters of the alphabet. The karmasthanas that you can come out with that are like all the words in the language. You can come up with any amount of words. Maybe in the future we'll do a meditation program in English. I don't know, it's not a promise. Maybe. Because there was one person who asked for it. So if there's demand, then perhaps. But I don't think anyone here doesn't speak or understand Sinhala, at least to some extent, maybe. So if you can, come along to a future session. But before you do so, make sure you listen to the Dhamma. At least 6-7 months. At least 100 sermons. At least. Otherwise you're going to be sat here, just looking up and down, not knowing what to do. So the reason I was talking about meditation is because when you practice proper meditation, you are dealing with raga, dvesha, moha. You are uprooting, extinguishing the fires of raga, dvesha, moha. So these fires are being extinguished. This is why you feel the peace of mind when you practice meditation. Whereas when you're playing your computer game, that's not extinguishing the fires of raga, dvesha, moha. That is igniting the fire. That's throwing fuel at the fire of raga, dvesha, moha. So at the end of that game, there cannot be a single child that comes out feeling more relaxed at the end of a game. There is no way you can come out of watching a cricket match feeling more relaxed than you went in. There's no way that can happen. Because all that happened to you throughout that event was vexation and relief from vexation. Vexation and relief from vexation. That's all that happened. And as if you've been coming along to sermons regularly, you know that in one chitta, one cycle that goes on in the chitta, the amount of time where you feel relief from vexation or pleasure is minute. It's tiny compared to the amount of time in which you're experiencing vexation. Sankhara dukkha on one hand, viparinama dukkha on the other, and dukkha dukkha throughout, and then there's this one point where you are experiencing pleasure. So if you expand that, consider that to take a whole minute for this process to happen, it's something like 4 or 5 seconds maybe where you are experiencing pleasure. The rest of the time you're actually going through suffering. So at the end of that process, add up all the time where you've been suffering, add up all the time where you've actually experienced pleasure, and the amount of time you've experienced pleasure is nothing compared to the amount of time where you've been stressed out and suffering. There is no way you can be happy if you seek happiness by indulging in sensuality. Whether that is by eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, whatever the case might be. But the real pathetic thing is, this is the real pity. People, all beings, we seek pleasure. This is the human condition. This is the fundamental problem. We seek pleasure. To seek pleasure, you have to go through suffering. There is no other way to seek pleasure other than going through suffering. You have to go through fire to get to the other side to now feel the pleasure of not being burnt by the fire. If there was no sankhara dukkha, if there was no dukkha dukkha, if there was no viparinama dukkha, none of you would ever have felt pleasure. Without suffering, there is no pleasure. No pain, no gain. Isn't it such a shame that actually the pleasure that we are talking about, the pleasure that we are so attached to, the only way we can enjoy that, the only way we can sense that is by going through pain, and then it's the relief from that pain that we experience as being pleasure? That's quite pathetic, is it not? It's quite sad. That is really sad. People like yourselves, intelligent people, educated people, you are going through that? That's quite sad. If you are not intelligent, if you are fools, I wouldn't be so surprised. But you are intelligent people. You are wise. You are clever. Look at all the things that you've been able to do in your life so far. How far you've been able to get in your lives successful. Because you're wise, you're intelligent. But if you still feel that this pleasure that you are experiencing right now is still worth it, that is so sad. That is really so sad. Not because I say so. Because pleasure is nothing other than relief from vexation. That is why. So, help your children. They really need help. The world is becoming more and more of a place where sensuality is going to reign all over. It's become the kingdom of Mara. Your children are not going to know any better. Because no matter what they do, everywhere they step, it's just going to be sensuality all over the place. Everywhere is going to be a trap to ensnare your children. Remember, they are destitute. They are hopeless, not helpless. If you can take them to the state where they become helpless, then they will come here and we can help them. But until then, they are hopeless. How many of your children are willing to at least go to a monastery and listen to the Dhamma? Some parents, they come and cry in front of us. They say, Swami Nuhansa, I've been listening to sermons for a long time. If only I could bring my child with me. But he or she is not interested. They don't care about the Dhamma. What can I do? Say, well, what can I do? Bring them here if you can, and then I'll try and help them. Force them to come here. If they don't like it, force them to come to a monastery. Not just here. Go to any temple. They come and listen to the Dhamma. Because otherwise, they're not going to know any different. They're just going to go through the only thing that they know, seeking pleasure through relief from vexation. And therefore their purpose in life is going to be seeking pleasure by relief from vexation. Can there ever be pleasure without vexation? No. Remember, a long time ago I asked you a question. You all like to be happy, right? Everyone likes to be happy. Who here likes to suffer? Put your hand up if you like to suffer. You're lying. You're all lying. You know that, right? You're all lying. Why? Why am I saying that? Because can there be pleasure without suffering? No. If there was no suffering, there would not be any pleasure. So when you are saying, I like my pleasure, you are indirectly saying, well, I also do like my suffering. That is the kind of pleasure that you seek. That has become the purpose of your life. That is so sad. So there has to be a purpose in life, and that purpose in life has to be seeking happiness that is not based in relief from vexation. True happiness is in eradicating vexation. And that can only be done by finding the source of vexation. and the source of vexation is attachment. What is the source of attachment? That's ignorance. I can't preach to you to remove attachment. There's nothing that I can do to help you remove attachment. Only thing I can help you do is remove ignorance. When ignorance is removed, attachment goes out the window with it, because they go hand in hand. Once you understand that nothing in this world is pleasurable, all things in this world are vexatious, not vexing, vexatious. That's the adjective. Pelena sulu, not pelenawa. Because otherwise it would be vexing for an arahant as well. This winnowing fan is not vexing to an arahant, but it could be to me, because it's vexatious, like flammable. Not in flames, but flammable. To be in flames, you have to take a cigarette butt or a matchstick or something that has a spark to the fuel. Now it becomes a flame. But until now it was flammable. Like that, everything in this world is vexatious. To be vexing, or to be vexed, you have to attach. For as long as you have a mind which is capable of attachment, then you are living a very dangerous life. Because everything out there is vexatious. And the reason you are attaching is because of ignorance. Remember, beautiful flower, the problem is not the flower. The problem is beautiful. That's the problem. Something that you can't measure with any instrument except for ignorance. So therefore it cannot exist. It really cannot exist out there. And your instrument is incorrectly calibrated as well. So therefore you keep making the wrong choices, and then you'll have to suffer the consequences. Do you have any questions? So if you'd like to come along to future meditation programs, then please give your name at the main desk before you go. But before you come along, please make sure that you have listened to sermons, because most of the time during the meditation program we will not be doing. What will we not be doing? Guided what? Recitation. We're not doing guided recitation, it's guided meditation. So guided recitation is where the Swami Wahanse sits on a seat, and then he starts saying something and you just have to follow. You keep saying what he keeps saying. That's not what we are about, because then you're just repeating whatever we say. What's the point of that? This is guided meditation, where we give you the karmasthana, and then it's down to you to analyze it. It's like a bar of soap. I'm not going to wash you. I'm going to give you the soap. It's up to you to go and wash yourselves. So when you're here, you'll be washing yourselves. I'll give you the bar of soap. So you have to know where you need to apply your soap, which parts you need to clean, which bits of your clothes are dirty or is dirty, and you have to apply the soap. I'll teach you how to wash, but I'm not going to wash your dirty linen for you. I can't do that, because I can't see which bits of your cloth is dirty. I can't see that. I only know which bits of my cloth is dirty. But I can give you soap, and I can show you how to use soap. That's all. This is why I say soap and how to use soap is what we deliver in sermons. This is what Anicca Dukkha Anatta is. How do you use the soap? How do you apply the Dhamma? So that you have to learn before you come for meditation. So it doesn't matter. We're going to do it every other week. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities. So, and I know you're going to be busy, so it's going to be a Monday to Friday program. Every day it's going to start at around 6 or 7 o'clock, I think. 7? 8? 8. 8 o'clock, and it's going to go on till about 8 o'clock at night. And every day at the end of the program there's going to be a sermon. Not as long as these sermons, but about an hour and a half maybe, where we're going to talk to you about the principal doctrine of the Buddha. Nothing else other than that. The principal doctrine of the Buddha, which is Anicca Dukkha Anatta, essentially. Just in case there are any gaps in your understanding, any gaps in your knowledge, which are keeping you from achieving the next Margapala. So when you come here, you must come resolved that you are not going to go back the same person you came. Ideally, you will come here as a Sotapanna. Ideally. Because then from that point forward, what's left is your own practice. For that we will give you the environment and guide you. But even if you are not a Sotapanna, that's still okay, because as we preach to you, then you may receive what you need to become a Sotapanna. But what's absolutely essential is you have to have listened to those programs or the sermons, at least 6 months worth, either in English or Sinhala, and come along to the sermons. Otherwise it's going to be a waste of your time, and it's going to be a waste of, well, our time as well, because otherwise what's going to happen is at the end of every meditation program you're going to come and ask, Samana, so what's that? What did you mean by that? What's going on here? I don't get it. And then we'll have nothing better to do than answer individual questions. Now, I don't mind that, but that's just not the time for that, that's all. But come another day and I'll have all the time in the world to answer all the questions you have. So, try and make some time for that. Because this has to be the purpose of your life. Right? This has to be the purpose of your life. Again, when I ask you the question, what is the biggest problem in your life? If the answer naturally comes to you as being Nibbana, then chances are you have seen the Dhamma. If the answer naturally comes to you as something else, then just continue listening to the Dhamma. And one day it will be what it ought to be. Okay. So we'll conclude the sermon there then. Final reminder again to parents. Your children are hopeless. They need every help that they can from you. Because now the world is not like what it was in my time or your time when you were children. It's a very, very cruel and mean world out there, and you know this. You know this as people who are connected to society and people who do various things to help young people out there. You know this. Just don't forget that you have a child at home as well. Whatever capacity you can, help them. Last week at the end of the sermon, there was a lady came and spoke to me. She's a teacher at a school. And she says how she explained to me how she's doing everything she can to take the Dhamma to her students in the school. What a great thing that is. Because they are the future of this country. Young children today, they're going to be the future of this country. So if you care about that, then the only thing you can do is to give them the gift of Dhamma. Nothing else will save them. Nothing else. Not all the money in the world. Because we asked the question, right? Which is better? To be poor or to be rich? Neither is the answer. Is it better to be beautiful or to be ugly? Neither is the answer. But is it better to be ignorant about the Dhamma or to know the Dhamma? To understand the Dhamma? Now you have an answer. Because that's the only answer that is not another problem. Every other answer is another problem. So do whatever you can in whatever capacity that you can. Because as you know, we can't leave the monastery to go and deliver sermons like we used to. Back then we used to go to schools and deliver sermons there to young children, young people, to shape their lives, help to change their lives. And as you know, we have a lot of young monks at the monastery. A lot of them came here because we went from town to town preaching those days. But we don't do that anymore. Because it's very difficult to bring a young child to a monastery, isn't it? You should know that. So the reason that a lot of our young monks are today monks is not because their parents brought them to the monastery. It's because we went to where they were. But now, that cannot happen anymore. But as a responsible adult, you have something that you can do. This is your duty to society. This is your duty to your country. This is your duty to the nation that brought you up. Give them the gift of Dhamma. The only thing that's ever going to save them. Nothing else will save them. Okay. Is it Sinhala or English? Okay. Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo sansara dahayen midetva sansara rogayen midetva sansara ginnen midetva sansara anduren midetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo raga bandhanayen midetva dvesha bandhanayen midetva moha bandhanayen midetva mara bandhanayen midetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo jati ginnen midetva jara ginnen midetva vyadhi ginnen midetva marana ginnen midetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo Shoka ginnen midetva paridevayen midetva dukkha ginnen midetva domanassayen midetva upayasayen midetva Yam pitchang nalabati tampi dukkhayen midetva Sankitena panchopadanakkhandayen midetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen sukhita taravetva Kama loka anathai eyin midetva Rupa loka anathai eyin midetva Arupa loka anathai සියලු ලෝක අනාතයි එයින් මිදෙත්වා අතහැරීම නාතයි අතහැරීම වෙත්වා නොඇල්ම නාතයි නොඇල්ම වෙත්වා මිදීම නාතයි මිදීම වෙත්වා නිවනම නාතයි නිවනම වෙත්වා නිවනම නාතයි නිවනම වෙත්වා නිවනම නාතයි නිවනම වෙත්වා නිවනම නාතයි නිවනම වෙත්වා. Okay. I can't emphasize this enough, but I'll keep doing it. The time you spend here is only a fraction of what you ought to be doing, and what you do here is only a fraction of what you ought to be doing if you are serious about Nibbana. This cannot be the most that you do in the course of the week toward Nibbana. Please don't let that be the case. If when I ask you next week, what did you do last week to help you attain Nibbana? If your answer is, well, I came to the sermon last Sunday. Please don't make that the answer. Please don't. Because here all you get is a tiny support. This is a push start. This is just a kick on your backside. That's all this is. To invigorate you. To remind you how important it is that we achieve that purpose in our life. You have to be serious about your Nibbana. I can't do it for you. You only spend a very little amount of time here. And I'm also conscious when time passes by because I know you have a long way back. So unlike the Saturday sermons, I can't always say everything I want to say. So I have to limit myself. Because the time you can spend here is very limited. And there's lots more I want to say, but we just don't have the time for that. So please don't make this time you spend here the best part of what you've done through the course of the next week to attain Nibbana. Because I have now told you what you ought to be doing. It's not suffering you need to worry about. It's the moments in life where you sense pleasure. Whenever you sense pleasure, you have to be fearful of it. That should frighten the living daylights out of you when you sense pleasure. Because what is that telling you? You are vexing. Which means now you are doing karma to be reborn again, and you have no idea where that is going to be. You have all been blessed with a chance to make this the last life. You have all been blessed with a chance to make this the last time you're going to go. You're going to age, you're going to go deaf, you're going to go blind, right? You're going to be handicapped, you're going to lose an arm and a leg, you're going to have a cancer. You might not have one now, but that's not to say you're never going to have one. It's going to be very pitiful if the reason that you are not eager and earnest about your Nibbana is that you have not yet been diagnosed with cancer. Would you like for me to say to somebody, you know that gentleman, that lady, they used to come along to the English sermons every Sunday, but that's all they did. But I'm seeing them come into the monastery more often now. Why is that? Oh, he's been diagnosed with cancer, that's why. That explains it all. That lady that used to come along to listen to the English sermons, she came lately and took with her all the CDs. Because now she said she has to make sure that she listens to all of the old sermons. Why? Oh, she was diagnosed with cancer last week. That explains it. Would you like for me to say that? That all of a sudden you are now so keen about Nibbana because you have been diagnosed with cancer? Would you like for someone to say that about you? But isn't it a pity that that is the truth about most people's lives? The moment you are diagnosed with something terminal like cancer, now everybody comes to the monastery. How sad. Now Nibbana becomes the most important thing in your life. Until then, it's everything else. But nothing else can stop you from falling prey to cancer. Only Nibbana can stop you from falling prey to cancer. That one thing you keep postponing until you fall prey to cancer. Then that becomes the number one purpose of your life. Please don't be that. Please don't let that be you. That would be quite sad. Quite sad. Okay. You mustn't think that I'm telling you off, okay? Please don't think like that. I do care about you. This is why I speak sometimes quite emotionally. I do care about you. Because someone someday cared about me enough to set me straight. Someone who was as wild as I was. Someone who was as destitute, mad as I was. Someone cared enough to put me on the right tracks. They didn't think of me as a loser, as a goner. So they put me on the right tracks. I must do the same. So I do care about you. This is why sometimes, the words I say, you might find a little hurtful. But that is not the intention. I want to make you all understand how earnestly, how eagerly we must all be striving for Nibbana, because there is no other solace. There is no other recluse. Nibbanam paramasukha. Natti me saranam anya. Okay, so let us transfer the merits that we have all acquired, and then we will conclude the sermon. First and foremost, as we did at the beginning, let us take a moment to remind ourselves that it is because of the Supremely Enlightened One, the Infinitely Compassionate One, the Omniscient One, the Undefeatable One, the Undefeated One, the Unvanquished One that we have. The gift of Dhamma today is because of the Supreme Buddha that we have the gift of Dhamma today. He is the Master, He is our teacher, He is our guidance on our path to Nibbana. Let us also take a moment to remind ourselves of the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasaka, Upasikas who laid their life down on the line to protecting and preserving this Dhamma, who passed this Dhamma down to us through the generations. It is because of then that today we have the Tripitaka, which we can study, understand and analyze and comprehend in order to understand the Dhamma that helps us to redeem ourselves from the shackles of samsara. So may through the power of all the merits that we have all acquired today, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful planes and be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits, they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all the members of the Mahasangha, wherever they may be residing throughout this world, including the Mahanayakas, the Anunayakas, as well as all whatever role they may play, whatever member of the Mahasangha they may be. They are the very reason that we still have the Sambuddha Shasana to this day, 2,500 years after the passing away of the Buddha. It is because they render an immense service that we have the Dhamma today, that we have the Sambuddha Shasana today, in which we can all find homage, we can all seek homage, we can all seek a solace and attain Nibbana. Also, let us not forget for ourselves that although you have come along today to listen to this sermon, make offerings and perhaps offer alms and so forth at this monastery. It is the members of the Mahasangha who are resident in your local temples, in your local nunneries, the bhikkhunis, the Silmanian Vahanses and the likes, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. It is they who have always been by your side to help you, to guide you, to assist you in the day-to-day vicissitudes of life that you might find yourself in. So let us take a moment to transfer the merits that we have all acquired to all members of the Mahasangha. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons, and the dead that we invited at the start of this sermon. Many of them will have been your mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, not just in this birth but also in your previous birth. Let us take a moment to transfer merits to them as well. For any being who we may have come across in this infinite long journey in samsara, anyone who might have helped us, assisted us, supported us, be that by offering us a glass of water or just perhaps by guiding us when we were lost during various situations in our life, not just in this birth but also in previous births. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. If any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they have redeemed themselves from the woeful planes, be born in the blissful planes, and may through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all the members of your families as well as your colleagues that you work with in your workplaces. It is thanks to them that today you are able to be here today. It is because of them who are today looking after your duties, your responsibilities, and who have relieved you of your duties and responsibilities so that you could be here today. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all those who might have helped organize this sermon, organize this event, organize this venue so that you could be here today and listen to the sermons, listen to the Dhamma. Take a moment to transfer merits to all those who might have driven you here, or perhaps by invited you to be here today, or perhaps even by washing and ironing the clothes that you are wearing right now. Whatever shape or form they might have helped you and assisted you in, may they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Someone might have offered you a glass of water, or perhaps by offered you some item of food to sate your hunger. It is thanks to them that today you have been able to listen to this Dhamma in peace and in peace of mind and in the comforts that you are enjoying right now, as well as all those who have made this venue available and the comforts that we are enjoying right now, perhaps by arranging this hall, perhaps by decorating this stage as an offering to the Dhamma, as well as making the comforts that you are enjoying right now, like the air conditioners and the cooling system that we have right now. It is thanks to them that today you are able to listen to this Dhamma without the usual stress and strain of the physical discomforts that you usually have to put up with. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. If any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they will redeem themselves from the woeful planes and be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all the members of the armed forces who fought a long and bloody war in Sri Lanka. It is thanks to them that today we are able to live in peace and harmony, members of the armed forces as well as members of the police force. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to those men and women who might have lost their lives, either friend or foe, in that long war in Sri Lanka. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. If not for the members of the armed forces, today you and I will not be able to be here today, and certainly not be able to practice the Dhamma in peace and harmony. It is thanks to them that we are able to do that. Also, let us take a moment to transfer merits to all those men and women who might have lost their lives in natural calamities such as the tsunamis, earthquakes, and so on and so forth, not just in Sri Lanka but also throughout the world. They may have been your friends, they might have been your family, not just in this birth but also in previous births, so they all deserve the merits that we have all acquired today. Let us transfer those merits to all those who deserve them. If any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may through the power of these merits they redeem themselves from those woeful planes, be able to be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the course of this sermon, in preaching this sermon and listening to this sermon, as well as all the offerings that you have made to the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, and all the merits that we will have all acquired today in practicing the Dhamma, in listening to the Dhamma, in making the Dhamma part of our lives, Whatever merit that we have all acquired today, may that empower and energize many hundreds and thousands of people, wherever they may be throughout this world, who are striving day and night to attain the state of arahathood, to be able to do that in this very birth itself, and in doing so, may we all be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahatun Mahanses on this blessed land in our very lives itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the course of all these merits, you and I and everyone who will have contributed and gotten involved and taken part in making this event successful and a possibility, be able to become one of those Arahatun Mahanses, one of those Arahat Mihinin Mahanses in this very birth itself and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Raga ginning idetva Dvesha ginning idetva Moha ginning idetva Nibbana parama sukhayen Sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen Sukhita taravetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo Nibbana parama sukhayen Sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen Sukhita taravetva Nibbana parama sukhayen Sukhita taravetva. Tunuruwange suvisi ananta maha guna balayen siru loka siru sattayoma Nibbana parama sukhayen Sukhita taravetva. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of desire. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of aversion. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of delusion. May I and all beings in all worlds attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the Noble Triple Gem be with you all always. Sadhu.